Here we are for my contribution to the October story process for Live Your Story. I have donned my October colour of orange, which just happens to be my favourite colour, so I think it was obviously meant to be. I'm recording this after I have finished the whole process, so you will see snippets of video, if that's the right word, connected together, edited together, that show my thoughts, because I think it's really fascinating how we start at one place, collect ideas along the way, traverse paths, back up, and then go down another path. So I hope that there's something in it for you, whether it be the ideas, the sketches, the silly outtakes, or the finished product. So here we go. Enjoy, and thank you for including me, Stacy.
It's been a few days since Stacy shared the cards for October from the StoryDeck with me. The first one is Places to Remember. It made me think of all the travels that I've been on, but most of those are well documented, and whilst in the future I hope to do some summary pages to really condense the volumes and volumes of albums that I have that I'm sure my children won't have, and I do want to leave them a summary page of each place and what it means to me. That's not something I wanted to start now. So home was what I thought of. I also wanted to look at photos that I haven't documented yet. So I actually grabbed some photos of my grandma's house. What you're looking at now is the album I have in my project containers. So these were photos that were given to me recently, or I scanned from very small photos of myself and my cousin at my grandma's. And I have very vivid memories of these times when my grandmother used to look after both of us. But when I thought about the gratitude card, my grandmother wasn't a very maternal woman. She had a hard life, and she moved away from her family in the UK when she came out here with her young family, and she wasn't one who I would say I could talk a lot about in terms of what she shared with me or taught me in life. So that troubled me a little bit because I thought I'd struggle with the journaling. So, but isn't it great that when you go looking for photos, you sometimes come across some others? So I've got another folder here now which is specifically for this, and what I found was a bunch of photos that showed when I lived in the UK for 2.5 years in the 90s. And I definitely have some gratitude for that time because it was part of an expatriation to do with my work. And I have we lived in a number of different houses, fortunately or unfortunately, just because we would rent them for a year, and unfortunately the owner would ask us to move out just because they weren't renting anymore. So I'm thinking of putting together a page that shows my gratitude for that time and use, rather than pictures of the place so much, but the homes that I lived in. It also then, when I was thinking of the title, I thought I might use something like Home Away from Home. So that's where I'm at. I'm also thinking about the phrase I might use is instead of not in my wildest imaginings, but something that's more natural, or words I would use, not in my wildest dreams. So that's where I'm at. Just a few days into this challenge, I have sent my photos off to be printed, and hopefully I'll be able to pick those up tomorrow. And I've started looking at papers and sketches.
So following on from the theme of home, or homes away from home, so these are the 3 main houses that we lived in. There is one more unit that we lived in for a little while, this one here, but I'll probably just include that in a smaller size. These are my raw thoughts at the moment. As I said, I've got them in smaller size if I need to, or even in square. And then I've got some secondary ones, including Let's Have a Laugh. I thought I need to include at least this photo here because it is a sign of the times, and taken at a Christmas event that we went to. Look at that 90s outfit that I'm wearing, and I've got very long hair there, and my husband actually has hair. But anyway, we'll include that later. I knew that I wanted to definitely use this paper. It's actually some current Christmas paper called Home for Christmas, but it makes me think of the tartans. And because I've got some sort of reddish tones, it's not exactly the same red. Our car was sort of a slightly burgundy. And then the green paper that goes with this, again, it's not too Christmassy, it's just generic. I've got a couple of textures, black and white, so I'll either go that way, or I do love this grid paper, and there's a sort of neutral browny tartan. So I won't be including all these. My eyes don't cope with more than a couple of patterns. But where I am going, let's see if we can. So I think where I'm going to go, or certainly there's going to be an element of this, these smaller squares. And one of the reasons I've gone for this one that is in my inspiration folder is because I've got this stamp set here. I'll put that down for a minute. And again, it's a Christmas one, but it's got the little houses. So I'm definitely thinking of doing some stamping to show some, maybe a row of houses along the bottom. But also when I was making another layout, I have this leftover, which is this stamp set here. And I thought, that's somewhere that I could actually include some writing, some story or some comments on if I do my squares that size, rather than they're probably 2 inches, I think. Anyway, they're my raw thoughts at the moment. Let's see where that takes us. So another little peek into my brain, or at least where my thoughts are running. I'm not necessarily using all this cardstock, but rather than cut up the lovely big pieces of paper I have and waste them, then decide I didn't like it, I've just used some scraps of cardstock to see how the angles were going to look with the photos that I've got, and then see how I can ground those maybe in a base piece in the middle. I've swapped around some photo sizes. I know I'm going to substitute this photo because I went looking. I've got a great photo of this house. It was our favourite house because it had a beautiful, it's not called a pergola over there. I'll have to think what the name of that is, but it's an indoor, excuse me, an indoor seating area, glass house basically. Our dining area was in a glass house. So I've got a photo of that, and I found a better photo of that, but I can still work here. So I'm imagining this part here probably coming on the same angle. Could come in from the same side, not sure yet. Still not sure of some of the colours. Also wondering where I'm going to put my stamping if I want to include a border somewhere. So could be too much here, could be too much I'm trying to do. Anyway, let's mature my thoughts a little bit more. Thoughts on my colours version 3. I was looking for a big block of coloured cardstock to put in here. Didn't want to go with the red. Was looking at the colours in the photos, the warm tones. And unfortunately, as much as I like this tartan, candy apple red just not going to work for me. So this is something called cinnamon, and I think it goes really well with this. So if I go back to the other tartan that's on here, I think that can work. I can bring lots of the pine, this mink colour with the tartan, have that as my base that cuts across the 2 pages, because I do prefer to use on double page spread, and I think that will work. So the scarlet will be going out, and I'll be working with the cinnamon. It's the next morning. We have beautiful, beautiful spring weather here, and that just meant though that the sun was glaring in on my page yesterday, and I couldn't film late in the day. So nothing is stuck down yet. That's how I roll. But what I have done is worked out a pattern over here that I think will work. I think I'm going to ground this on the bottom. I like a bit of white space at the top. I have organised my other couple of photos to be printed, and I think I'm actually going to make these a little bit smaller. So I think they're a bit too big. And then I can do some stamped images that I'm actually going to fussy cut and put along the bottom. I've also created, I had this great idea. I was going to put this big heading along here. I've always wanted to try this, where you put one word along the side of another letter to make sort of like that primary and secondary word. And I was going to have it this way, but when I turned the word home this way, it meant the word away was upside down, so it didn't work. So it needs to go across the top. So these I've cut on my Cricut machine. Love to do a bit of that. So home, away from, and I put the from in green. Could do it in the red actually, might change my mind. always got that flexibility. And now I've got some ideas. I'm one of these people sometimes because I lay it all out and I get ready stucking embellishments down before I've actually stuck the foundation of my layout down. But it's just the way I roll. So still trying to decide. I've got some ideas for embellishment, and then I was working out where I'd put my journaling. I had an idea for maybe, because this is home away from home and I used to write letters home, I had a very old, what would be now old, word processor, literally. We didn't have computers in the 90s, well, not home-based computers, and I used to type letters home. And on this stamp set that I'm going to use, it has a postage stamp and like a postmark. So I was almost envisaging an envelope. Maybe I could put the envelope across here with something I pull out with the journaling on. So there are my thoughts again. I'm one of these people, I will spare you all of the cutting of this on video because it took a little bit of time. I don't normally mess around too much. I make decisions and then whilst they might sit there not glued down, I know where I'm going. But there was a lot of fiddling to get the pattern where I wanted here. So I think I'm going to start committing. So let's see where we go to from here. The other thing that I always do, because I'm a person that tends to lay everything out and then I start sticking down, even right towards the end. I've taken a photo of this because I took some time in getting the patterns and colours in the place that I want. So I've taken a photo so that when I pull it all off, I've got something to work back to. Does anyone else do that? So I'm going to stamp some images of these little houses and then see if I can do some fussy cutting, which is very therapeutic. Probably going to do those in different colours, so I'll actually stamp them just onto some scraps. Maybe some ink. Not sure about the green. The house is green, but I'm going to be putting them against the cinnamon. So I feel like I need a contrast colour. We'll see how that rolls. Who else enjoys a bit of fussy cutting? I don't mind it. Pop some music on, and away we go. Okay, another dry fit just to see what this looks like. I like that. Then go back to over here. Some of these. Maybe. Okay. Let's stamp a couple of these images that I may or may not include. This might be better on the journal box. I'm going to work out how I'm going to do the envelope. Let's make an envelope. Just dropping in to show you my mess, and it is messy, so I'm going to have to commit. But I've just cut myself a little envelope. I think this is going to be rather cute. So this is in my Cricut. It'll give me a 4x3 space. I'll be able to pull it in there. And yeah, moving on. Time to commit. what I mean? I'm sticking down my embellishments before I have even stuck down the photos. It's just how I work. Gotta have odd numbers. Okay, I'm ready to tackle sticking down these. I'm leaving my photos till later just because I've got to get these resized ones. Hopefully I'll be able to pick up today. I've drawn a very faint line because I think this is about a 45-degree angle and a lot of this is going to be covered anyway. If you haven't noticed before, when I was setting up this, it's sort of brickwork, but it's a very subtle, whereas bricks would normally be halfway along for every other row. This design I was copying just has a very small drop. Yep, that one sits there. That red one's probably going to be covered by the envelope. Might stick out a little bit, so I will stick that one on, and I can probably get rid of that pattern. Maybe I'll keep it, I'll have to decide. Okay, let's start. Okay, I'm not going to stick this one down yet because I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Most of this is going to be covered, but I'm not sure if I'm going to have that piece stamped or not. Actually, what I could do, put that one down and then I'll decide. Okay, I'm going to use glues for this because it's little. So did you do this? I'm okay with the E being over here, but I don't want the white bit showing, which is why I lined it up so that there's no white bit showing there. Now, let's stick that in there. I think that's a glue job. Ooh. Let's just double check. So here is where I'm at. Like I said, I've got to pick up these photos, so I can't stick those down. So I'm just hanging off in case I want to adjust that a little. Found my photo of my husband and I. I really would have liked to include it to give it some perspective, but I'm not sure where I put that. So what I'm going to go off and do, want to create little labels so that I can put the years or the time frames or the little addresses. So some little tags that I can put, or tabs that I can put on each of those, so that when you read the journaling you can see. And I'm going to make the little insert and maybe even do the journaling. So I'll go off and do all that and I'll be back. So here I am done. I am really quite happy with this. I have added our photo here. I felt like it was like missing just a eye-catching "where is this about" little title, so I've popped that in there. I did a little clever trick with this stamp set here. So this is actually only on 3 sides, and I just did it on 3 sides, masked off the bottom, and then masked off the top and repeated on the bottom. So that worked for me. And there's my envelope. Again, using this stamp set. I've used the stamp and that, and then I popped the little house inside. Did a little 2 second generation thing on there. And then I've created, so I might show you, do another little quick film clip of this inside the sleeve. Those of you who like to see, I will put that inside the sleeve and have a little slit. So this is actually just on some paper, which has grids on one side, or light small grids on one side and large grids on the other. And I use the full printable adhesive labels. They're postage labels, but they're full size sheets, and they're brilliant. And then I realized I had cut a little tab that I was going to stick on there, but I hadn't allowed for that on there. So what I did was cut one using some of the clear adhesive label paper, and then just rolled it back on itself so it didn't block out any of my journaling. So I had quite a bit of journaling on there. I probably could have gone a little bit smaller, but that'll just sit inside there. And that's my home away from home. I hope that you've learnt some from that. I hope that you found it interesting or comical, just watching the way my brain works with layouts. And thank you again to Stacy for including me in this little October challenge.